Welcome back, dear devotees, to the GBC SPT page. My name is Deva Madhavadas, and I'm very happy this morning, or afternoon, wherever you may be, to have with us His Holiness Bhakti Rasayana Sagar Maharaj. Maharaj, welcome. My obeisances to you.
Thank you. My dandavats. Wonderful to see you again, Deva Madhav Prabhu.
Jai. I'm always happy to be able to speak with Maharaj. He's somebody that's taken good care of me over the years. And I especially appreciate his mood of bringing Krishna consciousness to all sections of society, seeing that Srila Prabhupada had a desire to do the same. And so Maharaj is vigorous in his preaching effort to try to reach different layers of the world and the global spiritual community. So we have a very appropriate topic for Maharaj to share with us on today, Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva, the famous harmonization that Mahaprabhu created around the different ideas about how to approach divinity. So Maharaj, we'll get right into it. We'll let you kind of lay out for us a understanding of what this tattva is that Mahaprabhu gave and what is unique about it.
Sorry, I was muted. So thank you very much. Firstly, I wanted to offer my humble obeisances to my spiritual master, all the Vaishnavas, and of course the Supreme Lord. And introducing the topic of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stressed, it is very interesting one because Achintya means inconceivable, and Bheda means difference, and Abheda means non-difference. So this philosophy means that there is inconceivable unity in diversity, or difference and non-difference. For example, this world is non-different from the Supreme Lord, and yet the Lord has nothing to do with this world. And we are different from our bodies, even though our bodies are also part of us. So this principle is all-pervading, Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, and therefore understanding Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva means that we can properly understand Supreme Lord, the world, and ourselves. So that's in a nutshell.
And I was a little research myself I was doing before our conversation, Maharaj, and I was noticing that Mahaprabhu never explicitly gave, you could say, the Sanskrit for this idea, Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva, and yet it's the understanding of what he had in his conversations with persons like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Prakashananda Saraswati. Maybe you can share a little bit with us about those interactions with those particular persons and what was unique in Mahaprabhu's presentation.
Yeah, those personalities, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Prakashananda Saraswati, were Mayavadis. And for Mayavadis, the most important thing is unity or oneness with the Supreme Lord, to such an extent that they think that a person can become God. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained to them that we can never become gods, but we are eternally parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, meant for his pleasure, meant to serve him. So that was the main idea behind those discussions.
Yeah, it's the understanding that Mahaprabhu has given, it seems to open up a lot of avenues for connection. You do a lot of interfaith work, and each of the different groups, they often have their different angle or understanding that they kind of isolate as the ideal or the best, or even you could say the only way to approach the Supreme. And Mahaprabhu has kind of given us a blank get out of jail free card, so to speak, that we can approach the Lord in any direction and eventually hold someone's hand to bring them to Krishna. Have you experienced that in your conversations, your preaching work, in terms of interfaith, that this Achintya philosophy provides that avenue?
Yes, well, Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, he was making very important statements in regards to dealing with other faiths and people of other faiths. And therefore, it's really important for us to understand and kind of take that into consideration. And for example, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 22, verse 24, wherein it is described what kind of character saintly personality is supposed to have, Srila Prabhupada describes in the purport. He says, another important point mentioned in this connection is anindaya. We should not criticize others' methods of religion. There are different types of religious systems operating under different qualities of material nature. Those operating in the modes of ignorance and passion cannot be as perfect as that system in the mode of goodness. In Bhagavad Gita, everything has been divided into 3 qualitative divisions. Therefore, religious systems are similarly categorized. When people are mostly under the modes of passion and ignorance, their system of religion will be of the same quality. A devotee, instead of criticizing such systems, will encourage the followers to stick to their principles so that gradually they can come to the platform of religion and goodness. Simply by criticizing them, a devotee's mind will be agitated. Thus, a devotee should tolerate and learn to stop agitation. So these are very important instructions of our founder Acharya, that we do not criticize people because they follow some kind of religion which is inferior to the ideal example, but we are encouraging those people to stick to their principles of religion and gradually advance spiritually. And I had a number of interesting encounters in my preaching, you can say, which helped me to realize how this principle works. For example, one time I came across one Muslim, and he said he was vegetarian, and I was very surprised. And I asked him how he became vegetarian, and he said that he practiced Islam very strictly since the age of 7. 5 times namaz and chanting Allah names on their beads, etc. And then he said he realized for improving in his spiritual practices, he must give up meat, fish, and eggs. He must become vegetarian. And then next thing, Krishna brought him to the workplace, which was nearby our restaurant in central London, next to the temple at Soho. And they started going to the temple restaurant, taking prasadam, because it was very convenient for him. And then I came across him at book distribution, and he took the book, and he said he will gladly read the book, and gave me a donation. So that was really interesting. I could see how once Islamic spiritual practices brought one to Krishna consciousness because of the person's sincerity. And so this is why Prabhupada says that we should never try to proselytize, try to change people's faith. We should make their own existing faith stronger. We should help them along the path. And then gradually they will come to Krishna automatically.
That's a beautiful point, Maharaj, and it's dangerous. I've experienced that tension myself too.
Oops. Sorry, we've lost you. We were explaining about something dangerous.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi connection is the dangerous thing this morning, Maharaj. I don't know what's the problem, but I was actually going to ask a question about how to tread that line. We know that in general today, most people are impersonalists in their leaning, and maybe even Mayavads, thinking that God has no personal feature. So how to kind of thread that needle in relating to people trying to help them come to that personal conception of Krishna, even though they may be beginning in this idea that all is one and God is everywhere and God is everything, and therefore I don't have to relate to him as a person.
Sure. I think Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us the best example dealing with the same personalities like Sarvabhauma and Prakashananda Saraswati, because Sarvabhauma, he defeated him not with arguments, but by careful listening to his Mayavad philosophy for 7 days and nights without any arguments. And after Sarvabhauma Tacharya placed forward every single argument he had, now it was his turn to listen. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just humbly asked him, "Are you ready to listen to my side?" And then he said yes, and then he gave him Krishna consciousness. So he defeated him by, careful listening. And we can see how he defeated Prakashananda Saraswati at some point when they wanted, he sat at the place where people kept their shoes, and he didn't want to sit amongst those sannyasis. And when they were asking what happened, and he said, "I'm a very low class sannyasi. I'm not fit to sit with all of you." So he was defeating them with their humility. And when they knew that he is the same celebrated Nimai Pandit of Nadia, who defeated all the greatest pandits and scholars of the time, and when they asked him, "Why do you chant the holy name as sentimentalist?" he said, "Because my guru told me, don't try to study Vedanta, you are a fool. Better chant the holy name." So, comparing to who he was and what he was telling about himself, presenting himself as a fool. So he basically defeated them with their humility, which was completely unparalleled. So we can see that by being humble and by having very personal exchanges with people, we can really change their hearts.
It was a beautiful point, Maharaj. I always appreciated that instance of Mahaprabhu sitting in the footwell and Prakashananda then inviting him out of that, saying, no, that you don't belong there. And in that moment, Prakashananda is actually defeated because he's refuting his own philosophy by seeing a difference between the footwell and sitting next to him. So what's that?
It's amazing point. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, just to your point, that if we carry ourselves with that humility and kind of assurance of our own understanding and relationship with Krishna, then that's a powerful way to bring the other person through. This kind of segues also to another passion of yours, Maharaj, which is the first purpose of Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON. For those that may not remember, I have some of it pulled up here. I'm not able to show it all on the screen, but to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all people in the techniques of spiritual life. And again, this Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva kind of gives a direction to come at for any different kind of person. We know Srila Prabhupada wanted the scientists to be appreciative, other religionists, people who were in general indifferent to spiritual life. Everybody could have a walk in. What has been your experience, Maharaj, in advancing this particular purpose and maybe connecting it to this Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva?
Yeah, well, myself and other devotees, because this is not just my passion, but luckily I have many comrades in that regard, many like-minded devotees, including very senior members of our society, spiritual masters, GBC members. So we're all trying to work together. And one of the latest moves, we can say, was that His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, who was, of course, big-time visionary in terms of achieving the first purpose of ISKCON and very innovative in his approach, he left Institute for Applied Spiritual Technologies behind, and now it's spearheaded by one devotee lady from Kazakhstan. Her name is Malika Mala Devi Dasi, and she took it globally, that institute, and it grows very successfully. And lately, we entered into the United Religions initiative network, which is the biggest grassroots interfaith network on the planet, consisting of over 1,000 what they call cooperation circles. And we had quite an interesting forum, 7 days forum, dedicated to the United Nations Interfaith Harmony Week. And we had pretty influential spiritual leaders from different traditions taking part in that. From our side, we had a number of speakers, such as Mahatma Prabhu and a number of others. And it was very interesting. And finally, they appreciated us so much. They said, "You're just part of our family, and basically, ready to work with us on any project we want," which is really wonderful.
That's wonderful news. What is the, in your experience, what is the effective way to bring our Krishna conscious philosophy into those environments? What allows people to recognize its efficacy and its value?
I think Krishna conscious practicality really impresses people. Lately, we are discussing the unfortunate results of the pandemic on the world's population, not just in terms of physical mortality and health problems, but also in terms of psychological and mental problems. That, as we know, many people who were on ventilator for a long time, after that they experience a lot of disturbances due to water disbalance, right? Because everything depends on air circulations, especially our mental state. And being for so long on ventilator just destroys one's psyche, like anything. And there are many people who suffered greatly, millions of people who suffer. And already, even before that, so many people were stressed out or depressed, and that pandemic added more to the picture. So it becomes like huge global issue, mental health. And we have amazing therapy. We could offer amazing therapy, which could be helping so many people, and that is cow therapy. And it's like, I'm just hoping and praying that we don't miss that boat as well, because we already missed the kirtan boat. Already so many celebrated kirtaniyas are performing in huge halls, and hundreds and thousands of people ready to pay any money to chant Hare Krishna with them. But there are hardly any devotees in those circles, and we've missed the Holi festivals, because now it turned into the color festivals, and people just making tons of money, and they left spiritual aspect out of it, even though we know it started with the pastimes between Radha and Krishna. And so if we would introduce the Holi in a proper way, we could be introducing it with spiritual aspect. And now the cow therapy becomes so popular all over the world, but hardly any devotees are involved in it. Even though one devotee said he is trying on a small scale the cow therapy, and he said the benefits are just mind-blowing, because one devotee came extremely depressed, pretty much on suicidal point, and it took him 10 minutes to clean the cow, to hug the cow, to feed the cow, and he became blissful, out of depression completely. And that devotee said, he even tried with autistic people. It helps even them,
Wow.
that psychiatrical disease is practically incurable, but with the cow therapy, it produces real miracles. So it's just a little example of, what could be done in practical terms to impress the value of spirituality on global population.
That's beautiful, Maharaj. And keeping it very practical today, many people have a difficult time even relating to philosophy. And I'm wondering, sometimes we see that in devotees, there's a sense or a need to kind of bring the philosophy into an environment that it may not be natural to bring up. What about on the other side? We hear Mahaprabhu warn us against the poison of hearing impersonal, and especially Mayavad conclusions. How does one kind of safeguard against that influence while being in these environments where people may not be open or yet under?
We've kind of lost you again for a few seconds, but I think I've got the gist of what you were saying anyway.
Sure.
So, and especially since we're celebrating Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we're just a couple of weeks away from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Advent anniversary, I think in terms of having the antidote for Mayavad philosophy, we really need to read Chaitanya Charitamrita, because we can see that Prabhupada spends so much time explaining to us all the pros and cons related to Mayavad philosophy. So we are well versed in those in those principles Srila Prabhupada explained, then we would not have any problem dealing with Mayavadis.
It's often my experience also that calling people Mayavadis these days is giving them too much credit. I had one devotee, he told me a Mayavadi is someone who will be able to quote for you the same Bhagavatam shloka that Srila Prabhupada would, but convince you that you're God instead of Krishna. That's a real Mayavadi. And today we don't see too many people in the spiritual sphere that have such a deep conception, that are versed in any kind of scripture, what to speak of the Vedas, what to speak of the Bhagavatam. So oftentimes it's just the kind of confusion and lack of maturity that people have.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes even atheists, when people call themselves atheists, you don't exactly know what they're referring to. Because I came across one man, and he said, I'm an atheist because when I was young, I was asking God to fulfill my desire. And I had no idea that if my desire will be fulfilled, I'll be in trouble. And God fulfilled my desire. And since then, I don't trust him. Therefore, I'm an atheist. And I was thinking, this is amazing. Atheist means one who has grudge against God or something.
So he's convinced that God exists. He just doesn't like him much anymore.
Yeah. Doesn't trust him.
He doesn't trust him. That's my problem too. I think I might be an atheist by that definition. The other challenge I see, Maharaj, today is this idea, it's very popular, that everything is God, everyone is God, and so it's all good whatever I'm doing. And I know many devotees are concerned about this also, that we, in the mood of reaching out and connecting with others, we kind of water down or lose the potency of our own bhakti practice in the name of these very generic kind of mundane, practically mundane things that many other religionists take to be spiritual because of a kind of pantheistic new age idea. What would you be able to say for us about how to keep that focus on Krishna even amidst those environments?
Yeah, we can see that there are quite a few devotees who are succeeding in those circles, and they have very, very strong sadhana. They are very serious about their own chanting and morning programs and association with devotees reading Prabhupada's books. So, it's like pandemic. Prabhupada actually gave that example that you might be in the middle of epidemic uh, outbreak, but if you're inoculated, then you're you don't have to worry. Or in terms of COVID-19, if you have strong antibodies in your body, you don't have to worry about people being sick around you. So in the same way, if we have very strong spiritual practice, and I mean, we have to interact with all kinds of strange people anyway. So that's why it's always important for all of us.
Hmm. I appreciate you making that point about our sadhana, that if that is strong, and that's my experience also, is that many devotees doing that kind of outreach and connection, they themselves have a very deep practice, and that's what protects them naturally and also gives them the enthusiasm to be able to go out and share something.
Yeah. Seems like our Deva Mata Prabhu is struggling with his Wi-Fi, so we'll pray for him to be able to come back soon. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, okay, so we might not get the Mother Prabhu too soon, but since you're all watching, we will try to say something about the topic we've started. And if you like, you can ask your questions on the comments. I can see them and I can answer them. So yeah, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose advent we're going to be celebrating quite soon, is the real wealth. We're all searching. Sorry, we'll have Devamada Prabhu online. Haribol Prabhu.
Okay, one moment.
Okay. So we might still get the Madhava Prabhu again on the show. Anyway, about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that he is the golden avatar, and gold is something which attracts the entire world because everyone's looking for pleasure. But unfortunately, material gold doesn't bring much pleasure. I mean, it might bring some temporary pleasure, but the real pleasure is love of God, and this is the real gift and the real wealth which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brings. And the whole world is suffering so much because of so many different problems. And the main problem is the lack of real love. And that's the greatest gift we could bring to the whole world, the gift of Mahaprabhu's divine love. And as Prabhupada would say, we can strain our brain to think, how do we share? Firstly, how do we get that gift of divine love for ourselves from Mahaprabhu? And secondly, how can we share that wonderful gift with others? All right. We got the Mahaprabhu again.
Haribol Maharaj, thank you for all your patience with my technical difficulties.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
What were you just sharing there, Maharaj?
Well, I think there is an echo from my work. I think you have two devices at the same. Let's see.
Oh, interesting.
It's still echoing.
Is that better?
Let me see. Oh, there is still echo. You're muted yourself.
Yeah, I muted to hopefully take away the echo. Is that better?
If you have more than one device used for streaming, that will create the echo.
Okay, Maharaj, better you just take us home because I don't think it's in my cards today to be able to join you on the talk.
I see. Anyway, maybe you can just ask a question and then mute yourself, and then I'll be answering the question. Let's work around like that.
Sure. Well, one other consideration I had was how this Achintya philosophy can apply to the experience that, as you were mentioning, atheists have. And they might have some faith in the material energy and being able to connect them to a spiritual conception. Have you seen that kind of empowered understanding before?
Well, dealing with atheists, I think they are like blank slate because, they don't believe in anything. And that's why if we give them something of real value, they would be able to appreciate Krishna consciousness. Actually, I had experience dealing with militant atheists, one group, and it was really interesting. And, they were trying to argue me on the basis of philosophical understanding. But then I started talking about my experiences in my spiritual life. And actually, a few of them, they wanted to become my followers on Facebook. Just from, because, it's like you lose nothing by trying spiritual practices, but you can gain tons. So, I mean, it's not the matter of philosophy so much dealing with atheists or even other people. It's the matter of life experiences. And so if we give them something tangible, if we offer them something tangible, no matter who they are, actually many atheists are telling that you give me something tangible, I'll take it.
What are those tangible things you feel are most potent to be able to give them as a way to experience something?
Of course, the very first thing which comes to mind is prasadam, our secret weapon. But actually, there is another and even greater experience we can offer to everyone, and that is, believe it or not, japa. And we don't think of japa as the greatest preaching tool, because somehow in our minds we think that japa is something exclusively kind of property of the devotees, which is true. Because if someone comes to kirtans or takes prasadam or reads Prabhupada's books or even associates with devotees, we do not necessarily call these people devotees. But if someone chants japa, then we will call that person a devotee. And actually, it is japa which totally transforms one's life and gives one, tangible spiritual experiences. Krishna starts reciprocating with those who chant japa. And therefore, I think the biggest potential in our movement is still unexplored. And I think once we start offering everyone across the border to have experience of mantra meditation in bhakti yoga, I mean, we can, clean it up. We can affect everyone, I think.
Now, what will be the difference in the way we would offer that, Maharaj, compared to the other groups already offering mantra meditation, other groups already doing kirtan? In what way would we distinguish ourselves?
Well, I think we can boldly advertise the benefits of mantra meditation, which are numerous. And that's something which other groups cannot really, promise. But we could promise people, like real life transforming experience after they start chanting japa. And we actually had couple of, I suggested that to devotees in Moscow, that why don't we start japa workshops for everybody in Russia, and they got enthused by the idea. And of course, for now, there are still like practicing devotees attending those workshops, but it's already happening. They already, there are already new people, and they come, and they know absolutely nothing about Krishna consciousness. But once they get the taste of japa, they buy Prabhupada's books, and they are interested to associate with devotees, because that's a mind-blowing experience for someone who is totally new.
Thank you, Maharaj. That's a very hopeful note to leave us on. I think if everyone were to take that idea forward, it would be very powerful.
Yeah.
Maharaj, thank you again so much for joining us and elaborating on the potential of this Achintya Bheda, Abheda Tattva philosophy to bring Krishna consciousness to the whole world. And in fact, you're showing that by practical example with so many broad-minded preaching efforts. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, devotees, for joining the page, and forgive me for all the technical difficulties. Thank you, Maharaj, especially for your patience with all of that. We look forward to having you back again soon. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.